Reason number 1, Wave of Frost makes it much easier to hit enemies with the final spike of Glacial Cascade. And if we look here at the details of Glacial Cascade, even if we don't consider any of this, the wave of Glacial Cascade does rather low damage, but the final burst, which is the final spike, does pretty good damage, about 3 times the wave. So here, that is the wave, that is the 70-something% damage, and that is the spike, that is the 200-something% damage in my case. So here, you can see that I'm hitting the column of the pillar of rock with the spike here, and what happens during a fight? You want to always hit the enemies with the spike that does good damage, but eventually enemies will get close to you, and now you're just throwing your Glacial Cascade, it goes through the enemies, they get hit by the wave, 70-something% damage, but you want to hit them with this. So what do? You do Wave of Frost, like this, makes you jump back a little bit, and it freezes the enemies, because Wave of Frost has very large freeze build-up, and you'll want to just add even more freeze build-up with this support, but very large freeze build-up, which basically means that most enemies will freeze at the first cast. Alright, so you freeze the enemies and you jump back. Since they're frozen, now they don't move. The enemy was here, frozen now, doesn't move, and it puts you right at the right location to use your Glacial Cascade and hit the enemy with the spike. Eventually you know exactly when to do the Wave of Frost, like when the enemy is about here, bam, Glacial Cascade, spike on the enemy. Reason number 2, Glacial Cascade has a massive damage bonus against enemies that are frozen. Consumes freeze on enemies to deal 350% more damage. That gets added to this here, so that was already pretty decent damage. Now this with this is very good damage. Now you're just freezing enemies that get too close, like this, with the skill that basically is one of the best to freeze the enemies with the monk, and now it puts you at the right location to just do your spike and deal massive damage. Reason number 3, and for this one, let me know if I'm wrong or if there is a bug or something, but if we look at the Glacial Cascade here, Final Burst consumes freeze to deal massive damage. I feel like it should remove the freeze on the enemy when you use it, and if we look here at Herald of Ice, makes the enemies that are frozen shatter to just deal an AoE on nearby enemies, so I feel like they both should use the freeze on the enemy and they should not work at the same time on the same freeze. I feel like this normally would consume the freeze, and if the enemy is dead from this massive damage here, he will not shatter from Herald of Ice and deal damage to the nearby enemies. But I tried it quite a lot here, and I feel like they both work at the same time, and I'm going to show you. Got some enemy here. First thing, I'm going to confirm that the boost of damage here works. So if I do Glacial Cascade on the Goliath with the spike, that's the damage that I dealt with the spike, maybe 25% damage or something. Now I'm going to freeze him, and now you can see that now I dealt like with the spike. When the enemy was frozen, I dealt maybe like 60% damage. Anyway, he had maybe 60% health left, so that dealt way much more damage than the normal 200%, so that worked. I've got a bunch of other enemies here, and if I freeze some, like I say this, and I move back, and you can see I just hit here, but they were dealt AoE damage. If I just freeze, maybe I just hit this one, bam, he just... You can see the explosion, the big explosion is the Herald of Ice animation, so I feel like they're getting the AoE damage from this. A bit hard to be 100% sure, but here you can see he took damage. This guy here was not in the range of the spike, but he took damage from the AoE of Herald of Ice. Like maybe this one here. Let's see that you can see the guy here move a little bit back, so he took damage here. So pretty sure that they are both working together and that you're both consuming the freeze and making the freeze explode. Thanks for watching.